Dude, I've rolled with the Muslim Brotherhood in Cairo. I've interviewed Hamas in Gaza, okay? I've been in some pretty rough places. And I got to say, when I walked in that area with my crew, I felt naked and I felt in danger. And that was the only place where I got my butt kicked. None of those other places. I was in Venezuela, man, and somebody was shot in front of me. But that was the only place where people actually attacked me. And that police station that you're referencing, it got so dangerous for the police to have a presence there that they actually moved the police station out of the area. I want to be really clear about something, these no-go zones. Those are not my words. If you watch the documentary, the short video I did, the police who I'm interviewing say these are no-go zones. Yep. They said these are states within a state where Swedish law doesn't apply, Glenn. This is where we're at with Sweden. You have little fiefdoms of Sharia law. The Swedish law doesn't apply. And the Swedes are telling us, you didn't get to the last person who I talked to. I was like, is there enough? Is there a point where you say we can't take any more in? He goes, no, huge country. We can take them all.
So, Ami, this was not controversial just a year ago. I mean, when I did this, it was not controversial to say. When Barack Obama was in office, it was not controversial to say it is the rape capital of the world. That I think, 1 out of every 5 women in Sweden now will be raped?
I don't know that stat so much. I do know this. I know that it's the rape capital of Europe for sure. When you see, the stats are, and this is what's blindly clear, when rape has plummeted all across Western Europe and the United States, right? Rape is up 50% in Europe. When murder, forget rape for a second, let's put that aside. With murder is down everywhere in the United States, murder is down everywhere in Western Europe. Since 2012 to now, murder is up 80%. These are undeniable, unimpeachable stats. But you'll have these Swedes, when they're trying to debunk my video on CNN and NBC, they'll trot out all these fools, and they'll all try to give some bogus stat that this isn't true. Those are the raw numbers from the Swedish the Swedish Statistic Bureau. They keep all the crime stats. These are numbers which cannot be disputed. You tell me if there's a problem.
Well, because one of the things that they say is that in Sweden, they just report rapes more often than in other countries.
Then why did it start in the last 4 years?
Let's assume that's true. Wait a second. First of all, it's not true. But let's assume that's true for a second. It doesn't matter. If rape is up every single year, that's the culture of reporting rapes more often than not, if that isn't true. But the numbers are still up 50%. Right? You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't make a difference.
Right. So did they just start reporting them? No, there's something that if that's who they are, okay, we'll accept that. But why has rape gone through the roof in the last few years?
Right, that's the question. But so here's the thing. So they say, well, what's the correlation between Islam and the rapes? Well, it's so interesting about how they try to cover these things up. So in 2001, it was the last year Sweden kept stats on the demographic of perpetrators. And lo and behold, 70% of all perpetrators were immigrants into Sweden. So they said, that's a stat we don't like. So they scrubbed the stat. So now you can't find the demographic is because they scrubbed it away. Now, what we do know is this, is that the rise in rape and the rise in murder dovetails almost exactly with the extreme rise in Islamic immigration. We know that. We know that 2/3 of the people who are raped do not know their perpetrator in Sweden, which is the exact opposite of the United States. So, and none of them, and the most important part is nobody has an alternative theory on why these rapes and murder is going up. The only plausible one, Occam's razor, the one you're left with, the simplest answer, is that it is correlated to Islamic immigration. And every cop will tell you, ask a cop off camera, when you arrest people, what's their background? Every single cop will say, and I spoke to dozens of them, the majority of people we arrest are from Islamic backgrounds. That doesn't mean to say I'm saying we should ban all Islamic people from every country in the world. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you have an open border policy like Sweden has and like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton wanted to have, this is what the result's going to be.
Ami, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Always good to talk to you. The name of the documentary is Stockholm Syndrome, and you can find it on YouTube. It runs about 10 minutes.
It's funny, too, because you can say all you want that rapes are going up because they're not being reported, which is always a strange and difficult to measure metric. But really, there's a difficult thing to make that case on murders. You know, people tend to report all the times that their friends are murdered. Yes. Like every time a murder happens, we know because there's a body.
What's really interesting is when I was over there and he said the key words, when off camera. When I would talk to people on camera, they would all say, you know, everything is great. When I'd talk to people just one-on-one, they would tell you the real story. They would say everything has just gone insane. You know, white, blonde women are a target because you're not Islamic. Generally speaking, you're not Islamic. And the Islamic teachings from these radical mosques that they come from are teaching you that you can be a slave. So I can rape you all I want. And Allah doesn't have a problem with that because you're subhuman.
Luckily, there's no white blonde women in Sweden.
Right. Mm-hmm. You look at the stats on Sweden.
According to factcheck.org, and
who knows?
Who knows?
But in 1 year, they're saying rape is down by 11%.
And it's definitely up over the last 10 years, but down year to year from 2014 to 2015. So did it go up wildly before that? I don't know. And they keep attributing it to other things and not the immigrants. Different definition of rape and all that stuff, which I don't know.
Well, different definition of rape. What does that mean?
That means they're redefining what actually constitutes a rape.
Right, like for example, we might call something a sexual harassment or sexual assault, and they might call it rape. So that's possible. That's why I brought up the point. Murder's murder. If murder's up 80%, it's hard to justify. There's a heart that was beating that has stopped. And now that I think about that definition, it doesn't really apply in certain circumstances, particularly in the womb, but forget about that for just a moment. When you have a person who's alive and going to work and he doesn't show up to work, people tend to call the police, and then people find bodies or they go missing, and then you never hear from them again, and murders happen. So
we should just stick to the murder side.
The murder claim is really easy to compare across countries, and that's, you know, they talk about this a lot because it's kind of the only thing that there's really a strict definition on. I mean, you can go to manslaughter and other things, but alive to dead when you're an adult or someone who's been born, they tend to see that equally, so you can kind of measure that across countries more easily. And you know, now I have not seen the specific stats on that. I know Ami said it was up 80% in a decade. That's a significant rise, and we've seen, despite what a lot of people say in the media and what many people's impressions are, in the United States, this has been falling dramatically for decades. It's happened across the world. These are positive developments. Why Sweden would buck that trend? You'd have to find some reason. I don't think the Swedes just got generally angry.
No, the Swedes, it's a different world. I was talking to one, and he said, you know, we just don't really have our own real culture. We don't have our... I'm like, have you looked outside? Have you looked? I'm coming from a different place. This is a very different culture. Maybe you should look outside and see what is going on. But yes, you guys have a very different culture. They've just bought into this political correct nonsense to the nth degree. I mean, did the media notice the riots in Sweden yesterday? I mean, could that have been better timed for Donald Trump and his administration? There's no problem in Sweden, no problem in Sweden, no problem in Sweden. Oh, look, here's a problem in Sweden. Wait.
It is pretty ironic that everything's fine in Sweden. What are you talking about? Sweden? We don't have a problem in Sweden. And then
how is that
riots.
Even a conversation?
I don't know.
I thought we all agreed that there was problems in Sweden.
Yeah, and we said this about France too with the no-go zones, and then they had a huge problem with that. They have a huge problem with saying that about Sweden. Even if that's not what they call them, there are places where the police don't go, and they've admitted that. And we've got them on tape. We've got them on tape saying
we were in Sweden. I was in Sweden doing a stand-up in exactly the same place that 60 Minutes was.
Right.
And they got beaten up, and my security guys got us out of there before we were beat up. And then the new documentary on Sweden, he's beat up in the same place that we were almost beat up. It is a very dangerous place. It's a closed society. It is run with Islamic law. And quite honestly, there wouldn't have been anybody crying boo-hoo for us. Everybody in Sweden would be like, yeah, what were you going there for? We can't help you there.
Yeah,
police won't go there.
They would have.
Absolutely, they would have. And they would have taken that stance because they know they're sitting on a powder keg and that's why they don't go in, because anything that's non-Islamic is seen as an affront, and they don't want to light the fuse on a powder keg.